wanna ride on my back like a Mustang. See ya. I got a watch on my wrist, it's a bust down. See ya. I'm tryna hop on a flight out of town. See ya. But I sent my baby to bring it around.
All right, this is your podcast weekly. I am DaniMarie, and your podcast bestie, helping you turn your podcast into a simple, profitable side hustle using AI systems and community. And with the podcast weekly, we are helping bring you all of the trends, all of the news, everything AI systems, and just helping you stay ahead of the curve so you don't have to take the time to do the research, because we're doing it for you, bringing it right to you here live weekly. So this entire week I've been live talking about different stages of activations and how to get the most out of attending conferences, whether you are an attendee or the organizer. So go back and watch all of those previous lives, because there's a lot of gems that we dropped in every one of those throughout this entire week. But today it's more about bringing to you the information and education behind what's trending, what's new, what AI things do we need to know about, and all of those important things. So we have a full list of things we want to talk about. Number one, which is huge, today's headline: OpenAI is officially a media company. So in a massive move today, OpenAI acquired the tech talk show TBPN, the best podcast network, for several $100 million. Now, this signals a major shift toward OpenAI controlling its own narrative in the creator space. So I did my research and I said, okay, what does this really mean? Break it down in layman's terms so that I can break it down for the people. So basically, by acquiring this podcast, the best podcast network, OpenAI is feeding itself information. Of course, it's becoming a dominant space in the industry. And with all of this content, years of content from having some of the biggest pioneers in AI and tech from this podcast network, now having access to that IP or having control over that IP. Like I said, it feeds the AI, it creates more information, it creates more topics and more content from all of that information that is extracted. So it could create a full source of information. It can educate, it can create other podcasts. And so this whole idea of like AI now dominating the podcast space is where we need to focus our attention. But I kind of butchered that. So let me use my handy dandy cheat sheet over here. So if you go to Forbes, there's a full complete article about this. So media shifted today due to OpenAI, and it will be a permanent change. OpenAI acquired TBPN, the Technology Business Programming Network, marking the company's first acquisition of a media company per TechCrunch. So on the surface, it looks like it's just a giant tech company acquiring a scrappy podcast. However, if you dig deeper, it reads as a defining signal about where journalism is, content, and influence are all headed. TBPN is a daily live show hosted by a former tech founder, John Coogan and Jordy Hayes. They both averaged about 70,000 views per episode across various platforms. The show generated around $5 million in ad revenue just in 2025 alone, and was on track to exceed $30 million in 2026 per Variety. So it has built a reputation as something of a sports center, but for tech, a place where top CEOs, including Mark Zuckerberg, and there's Sam Altman and a whole list of other names, they all come to react to the news of the day and occasionally make some of their own. The revenue and the guest list are secondary to what OpenAI is actually buying. A data set, and a distribution channel built on a year of daily access to the people shaping the AI era. The library, thousands of hours of candid conversations with technology's most influential figures, is the real asset. It gives OpenAI training material for entirely new kinds of AI generated journalism, analysis, and media products. So to me, it's just like if you build something now on the principle that it could grow to be this big conglomerate later, you could package that and you can sell that as a business. All of that IP, digital assets, that content, all of it is layered and you could be bought out. And that's why I always talk about starting your podcast with the plan, and in the plan, having a clear exit strategy so that you could be organizing, planning, and documenting the entire process, the entire build, right? So that in the event you want to exit, you'll have a clean exit. If you start in the beginning, planning and documenting everything, you can have a clean exit. And this company was just bought out upwards of a few $100 billion, I think, dollars. Let me go back and double check that. A few hundred, several $100 million, but now it makes OpenAI worth billions of dollars. So, you guys, it could be you, right? So make sure you're in the right rooms, make sure you're building with intentionality, make sure you have a strong handle on AI, make sure that as a podcaster, you are well informed. It's not just your small bubble, right? About you trying to have a narrative and control over your platform. And that's all cute, but you need to be building for the future as well. So I know sometimes we can be very insular and very narrow-minded, but the podcast is for you, it's for your community, and hopefully it's for you to have some freedom at some point. So something that you could not give, but something that can help set you up for success, right? So just think about it that way. A lot of us don't think of podcasting as a business. They don't think of it as much of anything, but besides a place where we all just kind of share our thoughts and talk about the things that are popular on social media. And that's cute, but the real money is in the infrastructure, building up the digital assets, having IP, having control, and then being able to have a clean exit. So document, and build with intention. AI and tech moves. So we talked about OpenAI, but also OpenAI funding. Let's go into that. They just closed a record 122 billion funding round, valuing the company at $852 billion. Is that not huge? live if you're watching live. But we're playing a short clip of Mark Cuban and Emma basically encouraging all of us to be proficient in AI because it's only going to help us in the long run. Not to be afraid, but to lean in. And this is the sentiment I hear from a lot of other people that I respect in the industry. You guys, sometimes technology is just not your friend. And so let me try to refresh. Sorry about that, snafu.
Skill.
All right. Well, I think everything is crashing down. All right.
That every young entrepreneur.
You guys, scratch that. Basically, like I stated, that they were explaining the importance of learning AI, stuff that we've already heard before, but let's move on. Podcast chart movers in the top Apple top 4 podcasts is number 1, The Daily, number 2, New York Times, number 3, Crime Junkie, number 4, Call Her Daddy, and The Daily, Crime Junkie, Call Her Daddy, and Dateline NBC. So are we surprised? The same people that have been holding the top spot for a very long time. Over on Spotify, of course, Joe Rogan Experience remains the number 1 dominant force. Some of the movers and shakers to pay close attention to: Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy, and Ash Kelly and Alana. I don't want to mess up her last name. They're seeing some of the highest momentum scores this week. Fresh episodes to know about. Gary Vee says he's supposed to be doing a 11-hour live stream Q&A today. That is as of today's date. I was checking before I went live and I did not see Gary Vee live anywhere. So I don't know what the time for that is or if it's still happening. Make sure you guys are checking in with Gary Vee. You know, he already has his finger on the pulse, and he's a well-known figure in this space as well. So someone to pay close attention to. Mel Robbins, the recent winner of iHeart Wellness Award. Check her latest on air with Ryan Seacrest regarding personal development. 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, covering the latest sports culture and intersection. And my favorite, one of my faves, the Gin and Juice podcast. I just love Mrs. Kev on stage. And she's just tea, so love her. Some viral clips. So apparently Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift already tied the knot. There's rumors of a secret marriage simply because of this viral episode that kind of happened. I remember when Taylor Swift was first on their podcast, and I know that's like one of the most popular podcast episodes to date because it ranked in so many views when she was a guest on her then fiance, allegedly. I don't know if they're married or not, but on her then fiance's podcast. So let's check out this clip of the news. So Kelce basically was on a podcast, or he was interviewing someone, and the coach slipped up and said, you got to ask permission from your wife. And Kelce basically did not deny that they're still in the fiance stages. So everybody's assuming that they tied the knot behind everyone's back. So let's see. There's another clip that I can't wait to show you guys because I just find it to be very problematic. So that's going to be next.
You got to ask your wife.
Be a good 6-man off the bench, yeah.
Sweetie, I'm going back to school.
Travis Kelce keeping it 100 after fiance Taylor Swift is called his wife.
Like, I don't understand how you cannot fangirl about that.
Listen, I'm just enjoying life. I'm living it to the fullest.
It happened during a chat on his New Heights podcast with brother Jason. Travis joking with Jared Calhoun, the University of Cincinnati's head basketball coach, about the possibility of playing college hoops.
I think I got like one semester left of eligibility, coach.
Hey, we'll get you a good NIL deal, man.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
You got to ask your wife.
Yeah, the W word slipped out, which Travis smoothly played off.
Sweetie, I'm going back to school.
So what does that basically say about celebrities who try to keep that kind of stuff close to their chests? A lot of people were expecting to be more in the know when it came to when they tied the knot because they are a public couple, I guess. And so what does it say about us who are so invested in other couples? Will you all be covering this? If you have a relationship podcast, will you be covering this on your podcast? And 2, what do you think about celebrities who are doing more of this? They're keeping this close to their chest and they're keeping that part of their lives very private. Do you think that they have a responsibility since they have been public figures to show publicly? Or do you think that they have every right to keep things quiet if they tie the knot or not? Drop your comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. You know me, I don't have an opinion on that one way or the other, but I'm curious what everyone else's sentiments are. Now, this next one is a little controversial to me, and I'll tell you why. Because something else similar happened to another player of color, and he did not get the same result. Are we surprised? So Cam Scabito, the Giants running back, issued a public apology today after a viral clip showed him dismissing CTE and asthma. It seems so trivial, right? So he said in a recent post on X, I recently did an interview and I had a lapse in judgment, which resulted in me making a tasteless joke about CTE and asthma. It was never my intention to downplay the seriousness of head injuries or asthma, he wrote on X. I sincerely apologize to anyone that was offended by my remarks, and I assure you I'll be more mindful and respectful going forward. Now, just the other day, if I recall correctly, Jaden Ivey, the Chicago Bulls, waived guard Jaden Ivey for conduct. Okay, hold on. Run it back. They said they waived it for detrimental to the team Monday, hours after he posted a lengthy video rant on social media about religion and other topics that included anti-gay sentiments. All right. So NBA player fired over anti-LGBTQ pride comment sparks debate. The player... Oh, goodness. Y'all. The player, Jaden Ivey, was let go, and he had a pretty outstanding contract, if I'm not mistaken. It was a pretty coin. And he, I guess, said some questionable things. And I did not look into this one. I just remember hearing it all over social media the other day, and I found it to be like perplexing because, of course, we don't get the same freedoms and liberties, of course, as our counterparts, our white counterparts. And so someone was fired and then someone else was able to publicly apologize. So what are your thoughts about that? Am I tripping? Please let me know. Versus Jalen and Mr. Scabito himself. who is in the wrong, who is in the right? Should we just not be holding our players accountable for the stuff that they say, or should we, because they have a platform, or do we let them be per people, or do we condemn them for what they say on their personal pages? I know that there are rules about the parameters of that for every person that you work for. You know, at the end of the day, we have people that we have to answer to, and that was the case for Jalen, as well as Mr. Scabito himself, whatever his last name is. Y'all, I'm not into all of that, but y'all let me know. It's just the drama and the gossip for me. I do find it fascinating, but I also know that this is what people like to pay attention to. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Upcoming events, the podcast show in London, May 20th through the 21st. There is the podcast Movement Evolutions that just wrapped in August, Austin, but they've already announced a return to South by Southwest for 2027. And of course, in just a few weeks, let's see, 22 days from today's date to be exact, my podcast peeps and I are headed to Atlanta. So we have to give a shout out for that. We're jumping to Atlanta. We're doing some activating in the area. So I have to drop and cue the video.
Bitch on the ride on my back like a Mustang. See ya. I got a watch on my wrist, it's a bust down. See ya. I'm tryna hop on a flight out of town. See ya. But I sent my baby to bring it around.
All right, so shout out to my friend Paul Jackson. He is a member of Bobby, and he is a historian, and he is well versed in Black history. And so shout out to him. He actually asked me to cover something that's not really related to the topic, but because I am an alumni of this college, I am going to quickly address it. So he says, Danny, you should talk about the recent Evergreen Tacoma situation where the dean got fired. So you guys, there's been a lot going on since I left Evergreen State College. Now, mind you, there's two campuses. There's one in Olympia, and then there's one in Tacoma. If I had to say the difference between the two, there's more people of color, and the campus is much smaller on the Tacoma campus. On Evergreen, there's a lot of diversity. That's when I first started learning about asexual, pansexuals, all these extra sexuals. That's where I started learning about the different arts and all of those things, because I actually attended the Olympia campus. So I was immersed in this whole new world, as that girl Ariel would say. But let's address the issue just for all of my people who are watching the podcast stream right now. Evergreen State College has settled a tort claim against its former embattled Professor Brett Winston and his wife, Professor Heather, for $500,000, according to an email sent to faculty Friday evening. They have resigned from their faculty positions at Evergreen effective. So I was not even in the know. But let me see. Let's see here. It's always something, always something. Like back in 2017, student protesters disrupted the campus and called for a number of changes to the college. Protesters occupied the office of Evergreen's president, George Bridges, at the time. And that was the Olympia campus. I remember that. And so recently, apparently, there's a dean getting fired I have no knowledge about. So I would have to come back and share that with you guys at a later date and time for those of you who are interested. Paul, you can let us know, because I know you keep us all abreast of all of that important information. But it looks like there was a scandal, $500,000 plus in the, I don't know, in the mix, something. I don't know. That's not my cup of tea. That's not my range. I'm just here to talk podcasting. You guys let me know about that Evergreen State College settlement or the dean that got fired. At the end of the day, we just send all of our love to that campus, because I heard I didn't hear about the dean. I just heard that the campus is getting threatened to get shut down. And again, they always come after our colleges, our communities, our neighborhoods, our businesses. So again, I'm not surprised. And it's like, if we do anything wrong, they lump us all in it together, number one. Two, we just don't get the same liberties and freedoms and grace extended to us as communities of color, which is very unfortunate. But you know that we grew up with the saying, you have to work 6 times harder than your white counterparts, because the privilege that they have, we are not extended that same privilege. So this will impact a lot of people. I'm just grateful that I've graduated. I got my master's degree online. And so I'm not above moving to online education, remote learning. Quite frankly, I already have an issue with institutions as it is. So this is not anything that I need to talk about. That's what my master's degree is in, educational leadership. And I didn't even go into teaching because I fundamentally just loathe, despise, detest, and all of the other adjectives. Public education, all of these institutions, I can't even imagine what it's going to look like in the next 15 years, especially now that we are in the world of AI. The institutions are not safe. They cause a lot of harm. There's a lot of microaggressions. I can go on a complete rant. But you guys let me know if you know anything about what's happening at the Tacoma campus and if there's anything that we can do. Quite frankly, it is good content for some of my podcasters who are in the education space. I have a few people who are teachers. And so this is something that they could potentially talk about on their platform. So please let us know what we need to know so that we can share the information and pass it along accordingly. That said, the podcast word of the day, and we are going to wrap. The podcast word of the day is something that I try to also give to you all so that you are in the know and you know the dialogue, you know the terminology. So today's word of the day is dynamic ad insertion, or DAI, technology that lets you swap ads in and out of your back catalog in real time. This is an extremely important word because let me see if I pulled it up again. Let me see if I pulled it up again. Apple is changing the way it's doing things. So the dynamic ad insertion for Apple's dynamic ad insertion technology allows for the real-time personalized placement of advertisements into streaming video or audio content. This method enables targeted, up-to-date ads that can be changed over time, offering a seamless and personalized listening experience. DAI works by inserting ads at predefined cue points in a podcast RSS feed, which the podcast player then plays before, during, or after the content. This technology allows advertisers to target specific audiences based on location, device, and viewing habits. Apple's DAI technology supports major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, and many other hosting providers, making it increasingly common. For podcasters, DAI offers flexibility, allowing them to sell ad inventory on older episodes. And so this is going to another vocabulary word that we use, evergreen content. When you have evergreen content, meaning that your content is like timeless and the conversations are always relevant, then people will always be going back to watch your podcast episode, no matter when you first aired it. Now with DAI, dynamic ad insertion, on those evergreen pieces of content, those ads can be swapped out. So they're not locked in to that episode anymore. Now they can be swapped out for more relevant products and services and ads that they choose to add to your podcast episode. So basically that's what that's saying in layman's terms. You guys, last thing I just remembered that I wanted to add that I skipped over, and I never heard it from him verbatim. I've only heard clips, but it's Ebro calling out the industry for being gatekeepers. And I want to pull that up because if you don't know, Ebro in the Morning rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Ebro in the Morning was kind of like the Charleston White, the Charlemagne the God. He's up there. You either love him or you hate him. He put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But nonetheless, he had been on Hot 97 for 10 plus years, probably about 15 years, until I think last month or the month before, him and his co-hosts were all fired from Hot 97. But what they did do, and they were able to successfully parlay over to their own YouTube channel. And from that, I guess now he's saying, since we're no longer on Hot 97, people don't really rock with us anymore. People don't want to come on the podcast. And so Ebro has been vocal about the concept of gatekeepers in the music industry. He expressed that while some individuals may have opinions that don't count due to their lack of experience in the field, he believes that the true critic or critique requires a deeper understanding of the music and its context. Ebro defended his comments on Drake, stating that he was not dismissing the artist's work, but rather challenging the notion of what constitutes, what is my problem today? A classic album in hip hop. So I don't think that's what I was looking for, but I don't know what the clip is. So let me go find it. Like I said, it was just me thinking about everything that I know that has transpired in this past week. And this is more of a less formal conversation. Again, bring it to you, podcast weekly news. And as I'm going to go look for this Ebro in the Morning conversation, or Ebro no longer in the morning, Ebro gatekeeping topic, I see Nick Cannon and Amber Rose. And if you guys know, you know. So how old was that? He's been talking about gatekeeping for a very long time, apparently. And apparently, because all of this stuff is like gatekeeping from 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Let's see what's the easiest way I can find it. Oh, another thing that I saw, which I think was April Fool's, Mano, who has a podcast with Dave East, Fabulous, and Jim Jones. Mano was saying that he's no longer going to be the fourth co-host on the podcast, I guess. Is that true? Or was that an April Fool's joke? You guys let me know. All right, so y'all. Okay, let me go to social media for this one because apparently I thought it was bigger than what it was, and it's not that big because everything I'm looking at says this was a conversation had years ago. And if you guys can hear my background, we have the pressure washer people outside. Okay, here we go.
You know what I'm saying? We're just ELR. We don't even have the cosign of the heritage logo. You know what I'm saying? We're not traditional media anymore. We're just some people on YouTube, so it's a lot different.
Hey, don't
That
say
is
it like
true.
that.
They may act different out here.
No, Laura, I'm telling you, people are acting different.
I know.
You haven't experienced people acting different?
Yes.
Somebody I've known for 30 years the other day, I was talking to them about some artists they work with and me wanting them on this show.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, yeah, send me some details about the show. Nah. We gotta send out a press kit. Nah, bro. That's where we're at. It's under.
That's crazy. So gatekeeping. You know what? I'll say this. I have been giving away free game for a very long time. I help people tremendously. And I've done that for free. I've not felt guilty about helping anyone. I've not felt guilty about the prices. I haven't felt guilty about, people who don't see my worth or my value until recently. Because at the end of the day, we all have to survive. We all have to live. And so I think that if people truly appreciate you, they're willing to pay for whatever it is that you offer. I know that we're in a climate where people feel like they're constantly getting scammed. They don't get what they're asking for or looking for. I go above and beyond to help people. And so this whole gatekeeping thing, I know the heart and the core of me, I'm not a gatekeeper. Everything I do for the past 4 or 5 years that I've been a podcaster now has been basically for free or for this much to provide people with this much. But as of recently, if you want access, you got to pay. Whether that is join our community, whether that is these free offers that I used to give away, these free downloads and everything, like we're going to keep a very tight ship around here because I am for the people who see my worth and know that if you rock with me, you're in good hands. And so I understand both sides. Like I do a lot of stuff for free. So if you want the free stuff, go to the Facebook group, find the podcast and all of that. But if you want to be a part of a community that's going to help support you, uplift you, where you're going to see results, where you're going to clearly scale, where we're going to do a lot of the stuff for you, answer a lot of your questions, provide you with the education, give you everything that you need to be successful, that requires moolah. I'm not even charging thousands of dollars. I'm only charging at most $750 to run your full operations for you. But people don't see the work. And so those people are not for me. So I just want to say that on the conversation of gatekeeping, because I feel like it's become a popular word. And it's hard for some people to walk that line. They don't want to be called out for being a gatekeeper, but at the same time, they're suffering in silence. And I just refuse to be that person because I know I go above and beyond. Every day I'm working on getting more information, educating myself so that I can educate you, pulling together the people and the resources, connecting the dots, building the community, doing a ton of work for individuals, again, for this much. When you can get this much from what I provide for you. So I myself have been pulling back and establishing clear boundaries. For the past 3 weeks, there's been a guy who constantly meets up with me on my calendar, not paying me a dime, just constantly meeting up. And then I tell him my best advice, what I think he should do. And then after a while I say, okay, well, here's my rate if you want to move on to those things. But then he's like, okay, well, no, I don't understand what you're charging me for. Please break it down. And then when I break it down, we meet again. It's just like all these meetings to make you feel comfortable when you can just say, hey, this is not the right time for me. I don't have it in my budget. And we could all just move on. Because truly, you can do all of this stuff on your own using AI. You don't need me. But if you need me, it's because you don't have the time. You don't have the knowledge to go and do all of the research of these things. and you need someone who's been doing this for a while to help cut back on your time, make sure you get the polished look and get exactly what you're looking for. So that's why you would enlist the help of someone like myself who's been working with other people and doing this for a very long time. But if we got to keep having meetings on top of meetings and top of meetings for you to see the value and for you to be comfortable, then I'm not your person, right? So just on that topic of gatekeeping. But anyways, you guys, that's my rambling for the day. Just to recap, we talked about some of the top 1 podcasts. We talked about OpenAI and how they are officially a media company right now. We talked about how they just closed a record $1 billion funding round, how they're shifting. They're no longer doing Sora. We talked about the fresh episodes to know about, including Gary Vee, Mel Robbins, and others, and then a few viral clips. But don't forget, the word of the day is, dynamic ad insertion. And if you want to join us in Atlanta, make sure you meet us tomorrow for our in person. Meet us tomorrow for our meetup on Zoom. There should be a link somewhere around here where you can register for the Zoom. It's a Luma link, but it's going to take you to Luma to register. And then when we are live, you'll get those notifications. So join us tomorrow. We're going to talk all about what we're doing in Atlanta. We're going to talk about how to get the most content on the go. We're going to talk about the right type of equipment to take you with you when you travel. So if you want all of that, then meet us tomorrow, but you have to register so you can get the link. All right. Lastly, again, there's the QR code for the Atlanta activation happening. And the agenda is as follows. We're pulling up to Pullman Yards. We're stopping at a content studio. We're doing live pitches on the bus. We're doing a scavenger hunt and a bingo experience. We are doing another stop at a Tech Founder location, and then we're pulling back up to Pullman Yards to jump out for the Black Effect Podcast Festival happening in Atlanta Saturday, April 25th. If you want more information, use the QR code up top or use the link plantapodcast.com/Atlanta. I am DaniMarie. This is your Podcast Weekly. Have a lovely Friday and weekend. Bye.
Bitch on the ride on my back like a Mustang. See ya. I got a watch on my wrist, it's a bust down. See ya. I'm tryna hop on a flight out of town. See ya. But I sent my baby to bring it around.